All right, episode 20 of the Tool Bags Up Sports podcast. That guy that looks like a divorced 35-year-old dad with 2 kids is me, your host, Sebastian Caballero. Shaved the beard, left the goatee, not my smartest decision. But what was a really good decision was the contest that we had this past week. We had a bracket to discover who you, the people, considered the greatest baseball player of all time. It was extremely successful. It was actually really intense for it being just a social media poll. I know a lot of guys were frustrated that some of their picks got eliminated. So it was actually really cool, and I think at the end we made the right decision. So let's announce it officially. The Tool Bags Up MLB greatest of all time bracket winner was outfielder and home run king Barry Lamar Bonds. He took down Ted Williams in the championship round. Barry Bonds was my pick before the bracket. I had about 3 wrong choices in my bracket. There was a couple there that surprised me. Let's run through the bracket here real quick before we move on. So in the round of 16, we had Barry Bonds take down Miguel Cabrera. A-Rod took down Pete Rose. We had Mike Trout defeat Derek Jeter. Babe Ruth took down Cal Ripken Jr. On the other side of the bracket, we had Hank Aaron take down Lou Gehrig. Right underneath them, we had Willie Mays take down Mickey Mantle. The upset that I wanted did not happen. Ken Griffey Jr. defeated the lower-seeded Albert Pujols that I am still recovering from. And Ted Williams defeated Ty Cobb. On to the Elite 8. We had a battle between 2 of my favorite players, Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod stood no chance against Barry Bonds. On to the next matchup. This one was actually tough. It was new school versus old school, but Mike Trout, not enough to take down the great Bambino. Babe Ruth moved on to the Final 4. On the other side, Hank Aaron defeated Willie Mays. And Ted Williams took down the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., to move on to the Final 4. In the Final 4, Barry Bonds just slightly got through Babe Ruth. And Hank Aaron was taken down by Ted Williams. Ted Williams, the Cinderella story in this bracket, but unfortunately that story came to an end in the championship round. Barry Bonds received over 65% of the votes from you, the people, and he is the overwhelming deserving player to win the greatest of all time bracket. Now, to discuss the bracket and to talk about potential changes here in the MLB season, he is a Miami radio legend. He's also a New York radio legend. Also, 9U Coach of the Year 2018, 2019.
Keep it going.
His name is Dimas Martinez, also known as D Boogie. Brother, what's going on?
How are you doing? So happy to be talking sports today.
Yeah, man, especially baseball, man, especially during these tough times here with no sports. Let's talk first about the Tool Bags Up greatest baseball player of all time bracket that went on this week. We do have an official winner, and the winner was Barry Lamar Bonds. What was your initial reaction, or what is your initial reaction to find out that Barry Bonds was selected not by me, but by the people as the greatest baseball player of all time?
You know, I'd have to look at the ages. I'd have to look at who actually voted. You know, I think it's a huge question. I commend you for taking that on because, again, there are so many factors, Sebastian. I mean, listen, I've been watching. I'm not one of those guys that can rattle off statistics and this guy did this and this. I'm not like that. But I do know a lot about baseball. I've been watching baseball forever. The 1800s, very important to me. There's so many errors, so many factors that you have to look into before you say somebody is the greatest of all time. And, you know, I can understand Barry Bonds. I can understand the numbers. What was it? 7 MVPs, 8 Gold Gloves, I don't even remember how many All-Star games. He's only the fifth guy ever to be intentionally walked with the bases loaded. 1901, Nap LaJoie was the first guy that happened to. And he is, I think it was late 90s that happened to him. I mean, that's unbelievable. With the bases loaded. Only the fifth guy ever in the history of baseball that's been around for 135 years. That's unbelievable. And I totally get it. And I totally get voting for him. To me, I'm still in that camp where I don't think he did it clean. And, I think he's being punished. The writers are mad. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame for what he did prior to, when he kind of dirtied himself a little bit. The numbers, yes, they're incredible and unbelievable, but I still think that there's some question as to how we got to those numbers. I do think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I think Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame, but greatest of all time, tough.
So in your opinion, who would you have voted as the greatest of all time?
Well, listen, I think it's eventually going to be Mike Trout. It's a shame if we lose out. We cancel the season this year. It's his year 28. It's the prime year in a baseball player's life. Might have hit 60 this year, 65 homers. Who knows? Because he's going to turn into that now. But even losing a year, barring a catastrophic injury in his early 30s, you're still looking at 8, 9, 10 more years of Mike Trout. And then at that point, I think the numbers are going to be so ridiculous that MLB is just going to change the logo to his face. I mean, it's going to be him. But again, I go back to lots of different eras, lots of amazing ball players that were not even on your list. Guys that awards are named after in the game today, the Cy Youngs of the world. You didn't have Honus Wagner on there, Nap LaJoie, like I mentioned, Walter Johnson. There's that era. Then you have the 20s with Babe Ruth. You have the 30s leading up to 47 with Jackie Robinson, then into the 60s. Then you have free agency. Then after free agency starts in the 70s. So many things to kind of look at. But to me, the guy where baseball was built on his back is Babe Ruth. End of story.
No, I mean, and you want to talk about unreal numbers. So as I was doing this project, I kept on looking for really quirky facts on all these players. It's one thing to think about Babe Ruth. It's another one to actually see what the guy actually accomplished. It's insane. It's incredible. And not to mention that he was, before this great hitter, he was a 20-game winner on the mound. That's insane to me, So
in 1919 in the World Series for the Red Sox, he went 3-0 with a 0.87 ERA. Yeah. And the only reason he stopped pitching was because he noticed that the ladies liked him to hit home runs more than they liked to see him pitch. I mean, the things that he could have done on the pitching mound were pretty incredible. And always remember this, that technically he was the first guy to really do things first. He was the first real big celebrity. He was the first real big, we saw that with Elvis and the Beatles and things like that, and the music scene later on in life. But really, he was kind of doing it on his own for the first time. The guy didn't work out. The guy didn't do anything. He was a beast. He was a monster. The guy for years led not only his team in home runs, but sometimes the entire league in home runs.
It's crazy to see, because he was really the sport's first superstar. He was MJ for the game of baseball, right? So, but you touched.
There's a funny thing, really quick. Just this week on Jeopardy, I don't know if you heard this, they asked the contestant a question: who broke the color barrier in baseball? She got it wrong, but she said Babe Ruth.
That's crazy.
Is my point. Which again, that's a good and a bad thing. Of course, she needs to know it's Jackie Robinson, but she knew the name Babe Ruth. That's how important the guy is to the game. Until Mike Trout has accumulated those numbers for me, and really he's already borderline with me anyway. But as soon as he accumulates those numbers, it's him, but it's Babe.
As soon as he has a chocolate bar named after him, he could be the greatest of all time.
Hey, Reggie Jackson had a chocolate bar named after him, so whatever, man.
So talking about Trout, you did touch on it a little bit previously. You said, if the season is canceled, it would be a huge loss to see Trout's, year here wasted. He is 28 years old, in the middle of his prime, projected to have another stellar year, could become the first person outside of Barry Bonds to win more than 3 MVPs. Now, if the season were to be canceled, how would that affect the game of baseball?
Moving forward, I mean, there have been instances. I've been around long enough to remember some of the strikes and some of the things that happened. Some of the tragedies just in life, 9/11 for one of those things where things just kind of have to stop for a minute. So I think the game moves on. It's not just Mike Trout that we're going to miss out on. I mean, we're going to miss out on Garrett Cole pitching for the Yankees. We're going to miss out on all of the love we were going to give the Houston Astros this year. We're going to have to keep that fire burning for maybe 6 more months. But I think ultimately we need to be safe. These guys need to be safe. We don't want anything bad to happen to them. So I think everything will be fine. It'll just be a shame. It'll be tough to get over. But, like I said, the game will not go away permanently. It'll come back in some way, shape, and form. It'll come back safely. We'll have it back and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we talked about yesterday a little bit. Baseball is different from football and from basketball in the sense that going to a baseball game, it's about the experience, right? Like if you can watch a football game, an NFL football game on TV. You can watch an NBA basketball game on TV, but the baseball game, it hits different. It hits different going to the stadium and experiencing being at that ballpark, right? Now, MLB is doing a lot of different things. They're coming up with a bunch of different crazy ideas. They're talking about, scheduling double headers, 7-inning double headers. They're talking about, neutral sites for playoffs. They're talking, even like splitting up the divisions, taking away the AL and the NL and just doing the spring training leagues and having those be the separate divisions. What are your thoughts on those different plans? Do any of those stick out to you as this one might actually work? That one makes sense.
I think once we're at the point where we feel like it's safe enough for them to go out there, I think any scenario is going to work. I think the more fun you make it, the better it is for the viewing experience for people out there, especially if there's not going to be any fans out there. Make it interesting enough that everybody's got a chance right from the beginning to get to wherever the end game is going to be for the league. But I like the arrangement of the Cactus and the Grapefruit League. I think that's fantastic. I saw some of the different alignments. There is a great – let me tell you that Cactus League West Division, Los Angeles Dodgers, Chicago White Sox, the Reds, the Indians, and the Angels. OMG.
Yeah, but now you got the Yankees and the Red Sox in different divisions.
I'm okay with that, and I'll tell you why I'm okay with that. The Washington Nationals and the Astros in the East in the Grapefruit League. You got the Red Sox, the Twins in the South, and the Yankees and the Phillies in the North. I think that just opens up a lot of different. Think about this. They're trying to keep everybody. You have to go by this idea. They're trying to keep everybody regional. So there's only so many different options that you can come up with. But I think they split them up in such a way that there's a lot of options for cross, playing national and American and all that kind of stuff. And again, you don't worry about who's who and what's what. You worry about winning games.
No, and I'm with you 100%. Out of all the ones that we had just mentioned, this is the one that makes the most sense. For example, the rivalries is what stands out to me. You're not gonna have Red Sox Yankees. You're not gonna have Cubs Cardinals. But this was the one that makes the most sense. I don't think playing 7-inning doubleheaders. I'm open to it because at the end of the day, most games are decided by the 7th inning. So I get where that makes sense, but it's still not baseball. It's not Major League Baseball. And then
it'll really shorten up the starting pitching situation. It's not going to be when you go 7 innings. Now you're really going, hey, this guy can go 4. He's throwing nothing but fire. And then you got to go 3 innings to 7. That's nuts. They're going to have 40-man rosters if they got to do that.
Right.
People are going to be pitching like crazy. And you don't want anybody to get hurt. You don't want Garrett Cole to get hurt with $345 million investments just because you're trying to give people some kind of distraction.
Right.
So 7 innings, oof.
No, and the other one that made me laugh a little bit, me playing college baseball up in the Midwest, I heard Mark Teixeira talk about this on ESPN. He said that, playing playoff games in neutral sites in this November and December because the weather was going to be too cold. Like, for me, it's funny because the warmest game that we probably played in was 40 degrees. So, if you go to any of these cities in November, it's still going to be cold, but it's not going to be freezing cold that you can't play it. If anything, it's an advantage to whoever the home team is. But I don't like the idea of having a Twins Yankees ALCS in Miami. That doesn't make sense. So you got me these are two of the northern teams playing in South Florida. It doesn't make sense, right? So I'm with you. I like out of all the ideas, I like the spring training leagues. Make those and split the divisions
How
regionally.
long do you think these guys will take to get ready? You think it'll take them a month like it will the
Listen,
NBA?
baseball it takes a lot longer because now you're talking about conditioning arms. You're talking about getting back into game speed because now it's not like the off season where these guys aren't like training in the off season. Some of these guys are like stuck at home not doing anything. So you're gonna have to give these guys some type of spring training, a shortened spring training, maybe 2 weeks before you can actually go be at a full go. Otherwise, there's going to be a long list of injuries, which I'm sure your Yankees would like to avoid.
Yeah, we already fired our medical guy, and the season hasn't even started yet.
Oh, that's horrible, man. It makes no sense. No, listen, this is getting off topic, but it makes no sense that the Yankees were as hurt as they have been the last 2 years. Like, it's no sense in the world.
It's in the water. It's in the stadium. I don't know what it is.
So let's stick with that that last topic here. So if the MLB, because out of all the plans, that one seems to be like the favorite.
I haven't heard anything better than that.
If that's the way that they're going, what would your playoff picture be based off of those teams?
I mean, you're still looking at. I mean, nothing changes as far as the roster. You're still looking at Mookie with the Dodgers. You're still looking at Garrett with the Yankees. So I'm still looking at those guys coming in at the end. I don't know what happens to the Astros. I'm interested to see. I think they, battle all year long, and then get pummeled by everybody so much that eventually they just kind of start to give away. But I think you got the Yankees and Dodgers there at the end. It's Yankees Dodgers, man. It's rolling toward that. Yankees Dodgers. There's nothing more beautiful in the entire world than that World Series right there.
I don't know. I kind of feel bad for all Dodgers fans. Obviously, they get hit with a bomb here in early January about the Astros stealing signs, which I'm sure they knew, but
Right.
just to have it confirmed, that sucks.
Confirmation.
And now, not only did they give up an arm and a leg for Mookie Betts, but if the season is canceled, they'll miss out on even having Mookie Betts, and there's already rumors stirring that he might make his way back to Boston next year. I don't know. I'm just saying. Bad news for your Yankees.
Yeah, but that rumor was on the East Coast, so you gotta kind of not even think about that. I think he was excited about being there. I think he took leadership right off the start. There's a lot of conversations. There were a lot of videos of him, kind of congregating with everybody in different kinds of groups, and I think he was really trying to get into that. And he found a situation where. I think there was a story early on where he came out of a workout or out of the back room or something, expecting to be, sequestered by the reporters, and it didn't happen. He was like, "What's going on here?" He goes, "Oh, it's not like that over here. We're LA and we're a big town, except but we're kind of chill." And he was really, really happy about that because if he had walked out of a clubhouse in Boston, there's 40 guys waiting to ask him, how you feeling? Right. And he didn't. It gets tiring after a while, I'm sure. So he was kind of happy about everything. So. Will he leave? I don't know. It always comes down to money. But I think that was a situation where they felt like they were going to go all the way with this guy. And he wouldn't do that in Boston. That's not going to happen for a little bit.
So I got one more question now that you have that hat on. And because so no, but it's I have some hope for the first time in about 17 years. I have some slight hope. Well, it hasn't been 17 years. I had hope a few years ago. But the Marlins seem to be moving in the right direction. I don't remember the last time we had a top 5 farm system. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What are your expectations for the Marlins here going forward?
Well, I think this is the year. I completely agree with you. I'm not sure how many guys would have really made the roster coming out of spring training. That was going to be the question. They kept everything kind of open-ended. They went into spring training. We've invited these guys. These are guys on the roster, but every job is up for grabs. But there were a lot of great names, a lot of people that we're starting to get. I couldn't tell you them right now, but there are names that we're starting to recognize and starting to kind of follow as they get closer and closer to making the big club. And really, you would know better than anybody else. Pitching and defense wins championships, and we do have some arms on the way, and it's an exciting thing. And again, another reason if the season gets canceled, that's some things that we're kind of looking forward to is that we've put up with a lot over the last couple of years with the Marlins. We've been very, I don't know if we've been patient. We've been trying to be patient, but we're here, we're ready to go, and I think this was the year, like you said, that we're going to start to turn that corner, at least give us an indication that we're going up.
Yeah, no, I have so many high hopes, man. I mean, you look at just the prospects that we called up last year. The pitching was spectacular with Alcantara and Yamamoto. Then you got Brian Anderson's bat starting to come around. You saw San Diaz make his debut. Hopefully, Lewis Brinson can break it up. But it's really the guys in the minor leagues right now. JJ Bleday, guys like Herrera and Encarnacion. I mean, these guys are studs, man. And if we could just put it together, the Marlins are going to be very dominant here in the next couple of years. But that was D-Boogie Dimas Martinez jumping on the pod. Brother, thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Really glad I was able to get Dimas on the show. One of the best guys I've ever worked with. We worked together at Revolution Radio. He's had an incredible career. He's interviewed legends in the music industry. I'm talking about Michael Jackson, my personal favorite, Cascade. I mean, the list goes on and on. We will ask him about that the next time he is on our show. But that is all for this one here. This episode will be up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe on each one of those platforms. And that is all from me. Until next time, I'm signing off.